in a faraway land, there lived these two humanoid containers for hot liquids called Greek Cup and his brother Sippy Boy. One day, when the happy little containers were chilling at the casino, because fuck limitations in the 1930s, am I right? It's not like this shit's like fucking YouTube or some shit. Anyway, the humanoid cup threw some dice, making a quick bet with Satan, all to loot the casino in exchange for his and his brother's soul. Because, you know, being his brother and all, I guess that means he has the rights to his fucking soul and shit, right? Anyways, so Green Cup realizes he really fucked up getting dunked on by Satan. So he gets on his knees and, like a little bitch, prays with his brother that Satan won't take his soul. In exchange, Satan thinks about this, and being the mean daddy pimp he is, he says, "Okay, you little shit, here's the deal. You go collect the souls of my debtors, and in return, if you do, oh, maybe, I don't know, I'll think, sort of, consider the fact that maybe, I'll let your souls free." And so, without further ado, Great Cup and his little bro Sippy Boy got an adventure, seeking out the souls of all the debtors to Satan. Even though Sippy Boy really just shouldn't be there, because motherfucker got dunked by his brother, because apparently if you're the older brother, you have all the rights to the little brother's shit, including your soul. But hey, that's the game for ya. Oh my god, this game is fucked up. Hello, how's it going, everybody? My name's Adara. Okay, fam, so here's the deal. This game's enemies are hard as fuck, boy. Lie, you don't even fucking know. Or probably you do, cause fucking game journalists won't stop being such a bunch of whitey pussies crying over it. So here's the deal, yo. This shit's hard, but it's fun. You're gonna fail a lot, but you're also gonna learn from those fails and eventually succeed. Everyone's different since everyone uses different strategies, but I'm gonna do my best to explain mine. Before I start, I would like to talk about the items in the game so everybody can understand the strategies thereafter.
Here's a real high-class bout. It's on!
The game has a collection of 6 different weapons in the game, each with their own characteristics that make defeating each boss either a walk in the park, whatever the fuck that means in this fucking game's terms, or a complete nightmare. Choosing the right weapon for the right boss is key to completing the levels and the bosses in the game. With that said, let's talk about the different weapons, shall we? Pea shooter. This is your starter weapon, as average as can be, but not a bad one. Many games start you off with the worst items and lets you buy better things while you progress. Luckily, Cuphead's not one of those games. The damage it does is average and it has excellent range and shooting speed, which makes this a great weapon for more further away enemies. You'll use it quite frequently. Spread shot. My personal favorite weapon of the game. Spread shot is the weapon that causes more damage since it shoots like a pea shooter, but in 4 different directions. And it's red! The color of bloody violence! Die, you pieces of shit! Die! Sorry about that, I lost my composure there. As I was saying, this weapon is very good for enemies who are close to you and stay still, such as Carnation, Beppy the Clown, and Sally. It will definitely help you get rid of some of these phases quickly if you use it well. Careful not to bite off more than you can chew, however, cause if you do, this game will be your ruin. Chaser. Chaser, as you can guess, is a weapon that no matter where you shoot, it will attack the enemy closest to it. Unfortunately for it, sometimes the freaking bastard shoots at things that can't die. I'm talking to you, pirate boss! Stop being a dumbass that shoots the fucking barrel, you numbskull! Pirates is right there! The weapon is also the weakest of the bunch, so it's not very useful for a lot of bosses, but it can surprisingly be handy secondary weapon for some. Especially in boss phases where it's better to focus on dodging than attacking, and also on many of the run and gun levels as well. I found Chaser very useful in the last phase of the Ghost Train while I dodged the bone attacks, as an example. Lobber. The Lobber weapon launches lots of purple balls and bounces around if used on the floor surface. This weapon is best used with enemies that you need to attack from below. It's especially a lifesaver in bosses like the Dragon and Bee on the last phase. Trust me, you need this weapon for these bosses. It will make your life much easier. Whatever much easier means on this motherfucking game. The weapon is very similar to the bomb. The weapon is very similar to the bomb on the plane levels in that down attack sense, and consider that the bee turns into a plane in her final phase. I consider that to be the creators basically fucking rubbing the obvious use of the weapon on your face. Plus, it does a lot of damage, so bonus points.
I'll be the roundabout.
Now, fellas, I'm a big fan of boomerangs. I really am. I even have one in real life that I bought on a holiday trip a few years ago. I still can't throw that fucking shit though. But in my opinion, this is the shittiest weapon in the game. It's basically a knockoff version of the pea shooter, with shitty range unless you fire backwards. Yes, you heard me right. You need to fire this bitch on the opposite direction for your enemies to get hit. Who the fuck thought that was a good idea? I mean, maybe it's just me and my lame boomerang throwing skills, but come on! All gives their backs to their enemies. You're basically begging to get fucked. And I don't mean in the cringy, inappropriate fan art way. I mean, I guess it does according to the game with decent damage, but really, how much more or less can that be from average damage? I really don't recommend this one, like, ever. Just don't waste your precious gold on it. Charge Shot. I last week talked about our final weapon in the game, the Charge Shot. The Charge Shot is a very good weapon if you have a great aiming and dodging skills. I have very mixed feelings for this weapon since next to the Spread Shot, it's the most damage-inducing weapon in the game. And it truly is good for getting rid of certain stages fast, quickly, and efficiently. However, there is a whole nervousness of wanting to charge and having to dodge enemy attacks. All in all, I do think the weapon with a bit of practice is definitely worth its money.
This match will get red hot. Now go!
There are 3 total of supers in the game that you can get at the 3 mausoleum levels, respectively. These levels are like a minigame refreshment from the whole game. Since there's only 1 per aisle, they're not very hard to beat, and when you beat them, you get a reward, which is the super. Basically, it's also a great parry practice that you can get only 3 times in game. I honestly wish they weren't destroyed while including them because they would make good practice, but I guess it wouldn't make much sense for the situation given in the mausoleum, which is that there is one magical chalice that gets held hostage by ghosts that you can't shoot down, you can only parry. Great. If you succeed, the chalice will give you a super as a reward. The supers are as follows. Energy Beam. The Energy Beam serves as a horizontal attack power where Cuphead shoots a giant, thick, transparent beam out of his milk-filled cup. Holy Jesus Christ, the sexualization that put this game through sometimes suddenly makes much more sense. Anyway, this energy beam does a lot of damage and is very practical when you're trying to beat the 3rd phase of bosses quicker. The only downside is that it doesn't really work well with enemies that don't attack horizontally. In that case, your better tactic would be to use invisibility. This super allows the player to be invincible for about 5 seconds. So, for 5 seconds, the game turns into this heavenly bliss as you feel like an unbeatable god destroying your enemies! Until reality pulls you back hard with the invisibility running out and you getting hit and dying because you weren't really paying attention. God damn it. So, we have attack, and we have Patek. What could we possibly get that would help our player with the perils of beating our foes? Oh, I know! Let's remove the soul from his body and let him spin around like a muscular ballerina! Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so I think that this is the game solution for some enemies that are difficult to attack with the energy beam because of their position, but honestly, this special is very inconvenient. Not only do you control where it goes with Cuphead's own body, which is very annoying when you're trying to get away from the enemy while the special does some damage, but it really feels like it doesn't do that much damage as the energy beam. It also kind of stops damaging at some point. It's just there, spinning. So yeah, not the best super, mate. Alright, so we talked about the weapons and we talked about supers. Now it's time to talk about the third equipment of the game.
A brawl is surely brewing. You're up!
The charms in this game are of a big help. The name is self-explanatory. Then again, all of the names of the things in this game are self-explanatory, but you know, I'm gonna explain everything anyways, cause efficiency. They're like special abilities that the characters can equip to give them an easier time beating the bosses of the game. Like the weapons, there are a total of 6 charms, but unlike them, you can only equip 1 charm at a time. Which is a shame, but probably a smart move that the developers decided on, since it would be easier to beat the game with more than 1 charm. And a part of the fun is a good challenge. So without further ado, here are the charms. Heart and Twin Hearts. For practicality, I will put these two in the same category. Even though they are 2 viable items, they basically do the same thing, which comes to giving extra health to the player. 1 extra hit point slightly reduces the power attack, while Twin Hearts reduces the attack power. Now, this is quite debatable in the community of this game, because many people claim the Hearts reduces a lot of the attack power, while others say it only reduces a small percentage. I have played with both, mostly with the first heart container for the majority of the game, and I have to say it does reduce a bit of the attack power, but the difference is not that big. They are both good items, especially for running gun levels whose objective is to clear them with all 5 gold coins instead of defeating bosses. So I recommend these items for the running guns, mostly the 5 heart item. 4 heart item is best for bosses, but if you don't have it yet, it's also good for running guns. It's a shame that the 5 heart container took me till IL3 to get, otherwise it would have made my life a hell of a lot easier with 2 particularly running guns. I'm looking at you, Ruggy Ridge, you goat mother. Smoke Bomb. Arguably the best charm in the game, Smoke Bomb lets you disappear when you dash. It is highly useful for a lot of enemies since you can dash right past them. Some of the most memorable moments include all the run and gun mini bosses, because the weapon allows you to just dash right through them and not have to face with their bullshit. It helps beating the casino boss easier too. Special highlight for the Russian roulette, which to me is the most annoying mini boss in the casino, and King's Dice Hand as well. Be behind that mofo all the time and beat him easily. There are many more examples on how the smoke bomb can be useful, but I think I made my point quite clear. Coffee. This item helps you recharge your super faster, so even if you're not hitting an enemy, the cards for your super will grow. Not as fast as they grow when you're hitting an enemy, however, but I say if you want to beat a level faster, where you really need a super, it would be a good one. Wheatstone. Wheatstone gives you an axe over your head that when you use the parrying move at any time, the axe will cut any nearby enemies. According to the description, it does heavy damage, but trying it personally, I find this charm more inconvenient than anything else, saying you must be in an uncomfortable closeness towards your enemy to be able to hit them with the axe. That is not only distracting, but it increases your chances of getting hurt. Besides, the axe does not do an amount of damage good enough to compensate. Sugar. For those who suck at parrying, this would probably be the item for you. It could be quite useful for the mausoleums or trying to get the juggler challenge, basically parry 4 items in a row for a coin. But besides that, no matter how much trash you are at parrying, I do not recommend this item since the focus of the game is to defeat the enemies, not parrying. If you need something to charge your super faster, the coffee item is probably better for you. If you need something to get S rank bosses, then maybe this could be a good boost. Okay, now that we have all the items used in the game down, it's time to talk about all my personal strategy to beat the game. Keep in mind, this may not work for everyone, and I completely encourage you to experiment with the game. This is just what worked for me.
A great slam and then some. Here goes.
Okay, so the way I see it in general, you play this game either on offense or defense. Offense are players who rely mostly on specials that give you fighting advantage, while defenders are the ones who will play using the special items that will give them a longer and better surviving chance on each level. It really depends on what your fighting style is, but I believe that for gamers that are fairly new to the platformers or don't have a lot of gaming experience, using more offensive strategies will do you well. When I first started this game, I was terrified, since I knew how difficult it was going to be. So, being the cautious type that I am, I went in for a most defense approach myself. The special items for offense players that I would recommend are Smoke Bomb, Coffee, and the first super, but mostly the Smoke Bomb since it's more useful and frankly more powerful. For defense players, I'd say the second super and the more hard containers the merrier. I also recommend for those who get easily stressed or who, again, are not very used to the platformers to play on simple mode first and then beat the bosses on regular. A lot of people see playing on simple mode as something shameful, but honestly, for a lot of people, it can not only serve as a great boost of confidence, but it lets you practice with the bosses. The biggest difference between simple and regular is that in addition to one phase, there's also less crap to dodge and you can focus on one thing at a time. When you beat that, you'll be more comfortable with trying something more challenging. Some people think it's bullshit that you have to play the full game in regular to progress, especially those who aren't good, but from my personal experience, I have to say that the game would be very boring if you could just win on simple mode. Sure, a lot of younger kids can be attracted to the game and get frustrated a lot easier, but heck, there's one thing that I value about this game is that it builds character. Challenges, however frustrating, when overcome, are greatly gratifying. And if that doesn't convince you, well, sorry to say, I guess this game just isn't for you. Hope this doesn't upset you when I say this, however, but I guess you just gotta learn stuff the hard way sometimes, 'cause life ain't easy. But anyway, back to the strategies. Another thing that I want to point out, if you haven't heard this already, is that you should feel free to change the controllers to your liking. Because God knows that the beginning controller selection is bloody awful. For example, there's a button in the game that helps you aim. But I have to say it's a pretty useless and unimportant button for most of the time and it gets in your way. I can't manage so much at once, man. So I recommend putting that as farther away from you as possible, since you most likely won't be using it at all. Instead, change that shit with the weapon change, cause Jesus fucking Christ, how am I gonna reach that shit that actually matters when it's all the way to the fucking moon? And I don't mean Hildeberg. And speaking of unnecessary distracting features in a plane boss reference, I'm gonna talk about the plane bosses. You don't have any supers or charms on this one, and you only have 2 weapons available. Because of this, a lot of people don't seem to very much like these features in the game. I don't know why, but I actually like the plane bosses more than the normal ones, Hildeberg being one of my favorite bosses in the game, and all. A technique a lot of people use when on a plane boss is making the plane smaller to dodge certain attacks. This might work for you, but personally I was not fond of this tactic. I beat all the levels without using this technique and it did quite well. To me, it's a very distracting button that you have to push because you actually have to hold the button to remain small. And the fact that you're thinking about holding a button to dodge is actually going to make you fucking get hit easier. Or at least it was for me. I don't personally recommend it. But it works for you, then yeah, you know, good work, buddy. Another thing that I like to advise is try to pick only 1 or 2 charms in the game to focus on for the full run. Because when you get used to these items that has been working for you for so long, it's going to make things a lot worse if you try to get used to something else. And finally, I thought about including individual tutorials for every boss, but I feel like that would be too long of a video, considering this video is probably long enough already. And besides, you can look for shorter vids when it comes to specific boss fights already. I recommend the channel Help Me I'm Stuck. He has very good tutorials for every boss. I always went to him when I was having a difficult time. But if there's one boss that I would make an exception for in this tutorial is King Dice. To explain simply, when you fight him, you have to fight a minimum of 3 bosses before reaching him. Doing that, you will need to parry a dice and roll up to a maximum of 3. My advice for this, try to choose 3 different mini bosses and specialize on them. Get used to them and get good on them. The 3 easiest bosses for me to beat was personally the cigar, and both plain bosses, including the skeleton horse and the monkey. The monkey is actually very fun because he's very glitchy as fuck, so sometimes it could really come to an advantage and others a disadvantage, but mostly that he actually dies pretty quickly when he glitches out, which is fucking awesome. And also, the good thing about this is that the bosses are randomized. Every boss has their own spot on the roulette, and if it doesn't change. When you see the dice, try to be careful because it doesn't always turn around in order. It doesn't go from 1 to 2 every time. Sometimes it goes from 3, 1, 2, etc.
Knockout!
And there you have it, folks. A full guide to all the do's and don'ts of Cuphead. I hope you enjoyed or learned something from this video. If you liked it, please give the video a thumbs up and maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to share this video with all your Cuphead newbie friends for extra tips, or to help them get into the game. I really hope y'all got something from this video, and if you have your own tips and tricks, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. So, what did you think about the tips that I've given in the video? Is there something that I said that was wrong? Let me know that as well. So yeah, thank you everybody so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful day, and remember to stay determined. See ya, fan guys!